Perek HaShutpin Daf Yudalid, sponsored the Refuah Shalema for Batya Bas Isaac Leib. The Gemara brings a brisa discussing two laws pertaining to Kisvei Kodesh, holy scrolls. Number one, the Gemara taught previously Rabbi Meir permitted combining the whole Tanakh in one scroll. The parchment at the beginning, wound around a pole, must be blank. At the end, one brisa states an amount to wrap around the circumference of the entire scroll must be blank. Another brisa states the amount to wind around, similar to the beginning. The Gemara reconciles this in two ways. A, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak explains, wind around means two different things. In the beginning it means around the pole. For the end it means around the circumference of the scroll. B, Rav Ashi explains the second brisa refers to a Torah scroll, that unlike other holy scrolls wound around one pole, a Sefer Torah is wound around two poles. Number two, the brisa mentions two separate rulings. One is a scribe who finishes writing at the bottom of a column does not leave space at the top of the next column. The second ruling is that it is permissible and even desirable not to join sections of the Tanakh. The Gemara combines them as one teaching. A scribe should finish a section at the bottom, not to leave space at the top in case he will separate them. The Gemara now discusses the proper size of a Sefer Torah. Rebbe taught ideally its height should equal its circumference. For gevil, parchment prepared from the whole hide, an average size ksiva of 6 tvachim results in a similar circumference. For a ksiva on klaf, the outside half of gevil, he was unsure. The Gemara states that in spite of this being the shear of Zekeli Vanveyu, except for Rebbe Ami, who was unusually successful with a calf skin that is thick and difficult to wind, most scribes were not successful to produce this shear. Rav Huna produced 1 out of 70 Sefer Torahs he wrote. The Gemara challenges the shear of Rebbe. A brisa proves from a verse in Malachim, Ein baron rak shnei luchos havanim asher hiniach sham Moshe. Based on the principle ein miut achar miut ela l'rabbos, the double exclusion of ein rak teaches there was a Sefer Torah in the Aron HaKodesh, in addition to the luchos. According to Rebbe Meir, after the luchos and shivrei luchos under them were placed in the Aron, there remained an additional 2 tefachim for the Sefer Torah. The Gemara questions Rebbe's shear of a 6 tvachim circumference. If pi is rounded out to a ratio of 3:1, the diameter of a 6 tefach circumference is 2 tvachim. A Sefer Torah rolled from both ends to the middle is wider than 2. The Gemara resolves this by stating the Sefer Torah of Moshe was wound 1 roll. However, in order to fit in 2 tefachim, it had to be slightly narrower. To accomplish this, a small amount at the end was wrapped separately and placed on top to minimize its thickness. Rabbi Yehuda calculated a amma as 5 tefachim relating to measurements of the Mishnah. According to his calculation, the Sefer Torah had to be placed outside the Aron HaKodesh, of course, in the Kodesh Kodashim, in the Holy of Holies. Originally, it rested on a shelf. After the Philistines captured the Aron HaKodesh, they eventually returned it with a golden chest as atonement for their sin. From then on, the Sefer Torah rested on it. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the double miyut taught to include the shivrei luchos in the Aron HaKodesh. They were placed under the unbroken pair. The Gemara now explains the order of the books of the prophets and Ksuvim. Number 1, the Gemara explains based on the wording at the beginning of the book of Hosea. Techilas Dvar Hashem b'Hosea teaches that Hashem spoke to him before Yeshaya Novi. The Gemara explains his book became part of the Treyasar and not a separate book because it was recorded at the time of the Nevi'im Achronim, the last prophets, Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi, not to disappear because of its short length. Number 2, although Yeshaya Novi prophesied before Yirmiyahu and Yecheskel, his book came after theirs. The end of Malachim described the Churban, continued with Sefer Yirmiyahu, continued with the book of Yecheskel that begins with a description of the Churban and ends with consolation, followed by the book of Yeshaya Navi that is all consolation. The Gemara now explains the Seder of the books of Ksuvim. According to the opinion that Eov lived in the days of Moshe, his book that contains Midas Hadin, Peronius was not first. Although the book of Rus involves Peronius' punishments, since David HaMelech descended from her, it at least ends positively. If you're enjoying Daf and 5, please click on the link below and subscribe and become a sponsor.